I want to welcome everybody here, and I want to remind you to wear your masks and still maintain social distancing as we are still in the pandemic. We'll be calling up Elder Darlene McIntosh to do an opening, and we'll call up Chief Darlene Logan to say a few words, as well as Mayor Lynn Hall to say a few words, and then we'll call up Dominic Frederick to speak, and then we'll open up the mic for other organizations to speak. So at this point, right now, I would like to call up Darlene McIntosh to do the opening.
Huddy. Huddy. Not loud enough. We have to wake you up. So, thank you all for coming. It's a really sad day in our life. I want you to do a nice deep cleansing breath throughout your whole body. Nice deep cleansing breath. Try to let go of the trauma, the sadness, and the horror of what's taken place. It's not a good time, but we'll all try together to let go. We come together this morning to create a sacred space for us to do our work in, for us to speak our truth in the highest good of all. So if we can bow our heads, please. We call on Creator, grandfathers, and the grandmothers, and all of our ancestors to be with us today. This week marks an unforgivable tragedy in the lives of our First Nations families. The shock of hearing 215 children buried on Kamloops residential school grounds has First Nations and non-First Nations reeling in deep sorrow. The families that never knew what happened to their loved ones, as it left deep wounds in their hearts. When our people expressed what had happened to our beautiful children, they were scorned and not believed. Do you believe it now? It is so hard to comprehend this unspeakable tragedy. Indian residential schools are a painful reminder of the dark and shameful chapter in our country's history. We are still tormented, traumatized, and empty, living the intergenerational trauma that still has not been healed. Get over it, they say. Now this? Creator, help us to process this unimaginable wound our parents and our grandparents have and are still going through. We hear the cries of our little ones. We hear the cries of our little ones as they died alone, without the comfort of their families. Without the comfort of their families surrounding them with love. Creator, this is so painful. Our hearts are bleeding. We come together as a community, as a nation. We come together in solidarity, in supporting the Kamloops First Nations people, along with the First Nations people that attended LeJac Residential School. Thank you for coming together as a community. Creator, thank you for bringing all who are present, ready and willing to support our people, honoring the memory of 215 children and their families. Let us work towards making a powerful commitment in bringing awareness to the shameful past that our people have endured. We come together in solidarity, showing strength in numbers, supporting our First Nations people. We cannot turn a blind eye to those who need our support. We call on our ancestors to be with us today. We ask for guidance and support for this call as we come together in solidarity. Creator, hear our prayers. Creator, Great Spirit, hear our prayers. All my relations, merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene McIntosh. I'd like to call up Chief Darlene Logan to say a few words.
First, I want to thank everyone for coming here today. Thank you, Darlene, for starting us off properly. And I would like to really thank Josh Seymour for agreeing to MC on this day. It's very hard. Today we're going to lower our flag at Half-Mast for 215 days for the 215 children found in Kamloops. I look around and I see a lot of Claytley Today members, a lot of them who attended LeJac. I've heard what happened, some of what happened to my mom, my aunts, my uncles, and our friends. They are the true survivors. They are the ones that made it home when so many didn't. That word survivors should never be attached to a child attending school. I encourage everyone to continue talking about residential school because it happened. What happened there actually happened to little children. Don't ever stop the conversation. You don't have to stand up in public to talk. Talk to your friends and continue the conversation on and on and on. I think the federal government and the churches should use the technology used in Kamloops School to be used on every residential school across Canada. As we lower our flag today, if we could lower it in silence for the 215 children that were found in Kamloops, and for all the children across Canada that went to residential school and didn't make it home. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Logan. I'd like to call up Mayor Lynn Hall now to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much, Joss. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I want to recognize that we're on the traditional territory of the Claytley Today, recognize the elders that are with us today, and Darlene, thank you very much for a significant welcome and a traditional welcome. I'm very grateful for the opportunity and privilege to join Chief Logan and Regional District Chairperson Art Kane in starting 215 days of remembrance for the children who died at the Kamloops Residential School. I want to recognize my council colleagues that are here with me today, and I also want to, in the strongest terms possible, recognize the partnership that we're developing with Chief Logan and her council, with Chairperson Kane and the Regional District. And I will say it's partnerships like this that make our community stronger, especially during times like this. It was shocking news that we all received when it was reported that the remains of 215 children were found at the site of the former Kamloops Residential School. This news has sent reverberations across our communities, both First Nations and non-First Nations communities, our province and our country. And has been said, the trauma of the residential schools has been noted through history, and without question, the latest finding will ensure that the discussions will continue. But I will say action is required. Residential school survivors have been talking about this for decades. The significance of the shoes placed on the steps of City Hall is overwhelming and is a vision that is not lost on any of us. The shoes represent the little children who lost their lives at the residential school, a memory that we must never forget. On behalf of City Council, city employees, and residents of Prince George, I would like to express my profound sadness about the discovery of the remains. Our thoughts, prayers, and condolences are with every family and every community that have been impacted by the discovery of those remains. I want to also extend to Chief Roseanne Casimir, the Kamloops Indian Band, our thoughts and prayers to her and her council and her band members that have obviously been impacted as well. Beyond remembrance, we must take Chief Logan's message to heart and constantly ask ourselves what else we can do to support our children today. In this regard, we all have a role to play, and we can all do better. Once again, thank you very much for the privilege of speaking with you today. Thank you very much, Josh.
I would like to ask that the Clately flag be lowered to half-mast now, and we observe a minute of silence. Kevin?
Oh, Chief Logan's helping, okay. Thank you, council and guests. And again, the Clately flag here at City Hall and all partner organizations which fly a Clately flag, council has asked that those flags remain at half-mast for 215 days. Thank you, sweetie. Thanks for being.
I just move.
Yeah.
So I wanted to introduce my sister Kenora. And we all know Darlene. Both of our mums are residential school survivors. Oh, sorry. Okay, this is my sister Kenora. She's the closest thing I have to a mom now. But our mother was a residential school survivor.
Thank you for participating in that moment of silence. I'd like to call up Councillor Dominic Frederick to say a few words.
a little bit short. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dominic Frederick, lately Tane councillor. I'm also a survivor. That's what I'm branded with. We all have a brand. Doesn't matter where we come from. We all have a brand, regardless of who we are. We're branded with different things, different names. But me and us that come from residential school, we're branded with survivor. But it goes deeper than that. We were also branded with a number. Mine was 22, like 22, you know. But, you know, my heart goes out to the Kamloops Indian band and the Shuswap and their leadership. And I'm sure that they will take care of business in their traditional way. It's not up to anybody else to decide what they are to do. They will do it in their way, in time. And I think this is going to take a long time. It's going to be a long process. But the other thing is that I don't really like what's going on within the media, with everywhere, because no one, not one person, can ever know or understand what we went through, because you do not know me, and you probably would never get to know me, because it only brings out trauma, hatred, sadness amongst all of us. Hatred against the government, hatred against the diocese, hatred against the LeJac or residential schools. And I think that we don't need that. Because during our life and during your life, you're always going to feel that. When you hear about stuff like this, trauma from the residential school, you're always going to feel that lump in your throat because you are part of it. Whether you like it or not, you are part of it. You're all part of it. But you know what? It only lasts for a little while. Then you get over it until the next time. But you keep getting better. You will always get better. You're not going to get worse. You will get better through healing yourself. I don't have much to say about the Government of Canada and Indian Affairs and the Catholic school, the diocese, but I may have a comment for that later on. But I think when trauma like this happens, we sort of lose focus. We lose focus on ourselves and on the direction that we're going. And what I mean by that is that that's when we're grieving We're grieving. And some of us may grieve for a long time. Some of us may grieve forever. That too, it will go away eventually, and you will heal yourself. But I think the focus should be on our children that are leaving today, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. We have to develop a plan for them so that this never happens again. We don't want history to repeat itself, because if we don't do that, it will repeat itself. The government of Canada and somehow will find a way to try to delete us. But even for my community and our elders, we're resilient. You are resilient. We will always find a way out. I'm sure that the Kamloops Indian Band will, and their leadership, will find a way to repatriate the dead. And it won't be only Kamloops, because there was other bands that had children in that school. My wife Shirley, she attended the Kamloops Indian Band School too. She is a survivor also, and she's from Whatset, Morristown. I don't even have notes yet. I'm flipping pages. But anyways, I think, just we, in the media, I find that, it's really easy to say things on TV as, leaders of organizations and stuff like that, but, but really they don't mean a hell of a lot to us. It doesn't mean nothing. It's just words. But I think, if we're going to have a sustainable community, we need to own the land. We are caretakers of Indian land that belongs to Canada. One day all that land should be repatriated back to the bands. So that we can have sustainability in our communities. Our grandchildren and our children and great-grandchildren can go on living and find a good way to live. But there's more to it. It's up to us. It's also up to us to change our ways. Change our ways from the way that we live with drugs, alcohol, hatred, all that stuff has to be directed somewhere else. We don't need to direct it to each other. Because in the next few years, it's going to be a hard time for everybody. And I think, the change is going to help. It's going to help your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and the generations to come. Because that's how they succeed. I'm not going to say, well, move into town and change your ways, but that doesn't work either, because you're moving into town and moving away from the life that you live on in the community. And again, with that, I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank Joshua Seymour for 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 introducing me and bringing me up. And again, I thank you all and bless you all. Thank you.
I'd like to ask if any of the Clately councillors would like anything to say. We have Councillor Helen Bouzas and Councillor Crystal Gibbs.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start off by sending my deepest heartfelt condolences to the families of the 215 children found May 27th. This is just the beginning of the sad truth. I myself am the granddaughter of residential school survivors. My family, like many others, had members who were taken and never returned. Their strength, their resilience, and their memory is why we are still here. I feel it's very important to continue to teach our children, our grandchildren, to be proud of who they are and where they come from, educate them. Sorry. They need to have the ability to overcome and rise above the history that tried to erase them. Masi.
Hello, my name is Helen Bouzas. I'm a counselor for Clately Tenay. This conversation has waited patiently for decades, for a time when we all listen. It is with considerable sadness and sorrow that we extend our deepest sympathy to our Kamloops First Nation brothers and sisters. Our hearts remain heavy for all the families of these beautiful children. May the great Creator protect these children eternally. Oh my God, I'm shaking.
Relax. You're doing good. Come on, finish up. You're doing good.
Okay. May people learn from this history of our past and never again let such wrongful happen again. This reminder must be felt in the soul of today's society to understand the ugliness of the past. We will never understand the level of the torture inflicted on children in residential schools.
Erase it from your mind and just think of those little kids laughing.
Okay. My own late mother was made to attend a school in the 50s. We need to listen to those who survived, and may humanity understand the stories of those who did not survive, and to fully understand the reasons on why these deplorable institutions were established in the first place. Thank you, and I'm sorry.
I'd like to call up Marcel Gagnon, councillor.
God, that's hard to listen to. I never went to a residential school. I went over there. And I owe everything to my older brothers, especially my brother Frank, who passed away, who told the priest when they brought him to Lejac, if you don't let me go home, I'll burn this place down. He saved me from having to go there. But the stories I heard from the survivors, there's one that always stays with me. At Lejac, the kids were so hungry all the time. And one of the elders was telling me he was watching them through the window, eating from a pile of raw chicken's feet that they had slaughtered. And he said to the kids, "Don't eat that, you're going to get sick." And one of the little boys looked at him and said, "But I'm hungry." That's hard to comprehend. Thank you, Domo, for saying, we're survivors, we're still here. And we move forward now. What the future holds with the other residential schools and the horror they're going to unearth in those places. We've already struggled with the initial shock. It's not going to get easier, but at least the truth will come out and the whole world will know what people went through. I thank you.
Thank you, Marcel. When I came up here and I was trying to think of what I was going to say, I think of what my grandfather would be proud of me and how I can make him proud. My grandfather did attend LeJac with his brother and sisters. So when I started thinking about the schools, especially the ones that were just discovered into Kamloops, I have to think and have to realize that this is one school from 140 schools. One. The last school closed in 1996. Many of us could have went to that school. That's how real it is. It is not in the past. It is living history right now. And this is where I feel that I agree with Chief Darlene Logan when she says that the federal government and the churches need to put resources in to find those lost babies, because those babies won't rest, and neither shall we. The Clately flag will raise up in our territory on January 2nd, 2022. That's 215 days from today. Every day that passes, please honor every one of those child in your own way. Every domination and every religion, please say a prayer once a day for those children and all children. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I was trying to think, how do we honor these students in a proper way? As our flag lays at Half-Mast for the next 215 days, learn a word in your language. Use it every day. Learn your songs and sing them loud and proud with your heart and your spirit so that those 215 children hear it in the spirit world. They are not forgotten. We will find them, all of them, because they need to be put to rest. That is our duty as people. That is our duty as human beings. We have to do it for the children. We have to do it for the survivors who are here today and those who are not. We have to do it for them. They are not forgotten. We will never forget them. We will find you. Thank you. Held it together, yeah?
Yep, you did good. So we should thank Mike for helping us.
Yes, yes. I would like to thank Mike for helping us lower the flag as well. I would like to now call up Joe Gosnell to say a few words as well. Joe Gosnell is the Executive Director for Clately today.
Thanks, Josh. Howdy. My name's Joe Gosnell. I don't use a junior anymore. A very emotional day today. Thank you to Chief Logan and your council, elders, Darlene McIntosh, all those in attendance this afternoon. This morning we gathered as a group in preparation for this ceremony. There's no way to prepare for this type of ceremony. And as you heard, there are no words of comfort for the loss. Today is not just another orange t-shirt day. I came to this site last night with my wife and children, and like most, I cried. I cried for the children that they found. I cried for myself. I cried for my parents and my grandparents. And I cried for all those nations whose members attended the residential schools scattered throughout Canada, especially in BC. My reflection last night when looking at this powerful scene in front of all of us was to my father. My father always told me when addressing such a crowd to speak from your heart, and that if you speak from your heart, you cannot go wrong. And that's what I heard this afternoon from everyone that came up to this podium. You don't have to apologize for anything. And for those who do not know, I am a survivor. I attended the Lytton Residential School just prior to them closing. And a lot of my school colleagues are not with us today. The school in that township no longer exists. It was demolished. And when I can, I take the time to visit that location, which is very tough. It's emotional. And I make it a point to, when I can, is to bring my children and my grandchildren. It is a somber moment. This is a somber moment. And in my own personal insights, which I expressed to Chief Logan and Council earlier today in our briefing session, the discovery in Kamloops is a crime scene. And I stated to the council that I work for and the nation that I work for that each residential school site in Canada should be considered a crime scene. So in closing, again, I don't want to be too long, and I'm here, like everyone else in attendance this afternoon, is to be present, show respect, and provide the ongoing support that we will all need moving forward, no matter what the church or the government attempts to do in attaining restitution. In my closing comments, I wish everyone well in attendance. And I wish everyone that is in attendance this afternoon that if you are a survivor, I pray for your strength and your courage and moving forward and beyond. I know that it will be difficult, but our prayers are with you. Thank you.
This ends the official ceremony. I encourage the people here with the drums that you please sing your songs and remember to sing them loud and proud so that they hear you. Thank you.